Seeing as I am pretty invested in Turkish these days, I want to talk a little bit about the Turkish resources that I'm using. Like any language, you need a lot of resources to be able to self-study a language or to even study it with the class, but Turkish does not have as many resources as languages like French or Spanish or German. At least there are not that many resources for English learners. I think it's kind of strange that just because Turkish is not a common choice for a lot of native English speakers, there aren't that many websites or books catering to English speakers wanting to learn Turkish. There are so many speakers. There are more speakers than a lot of European languages that are popular with English speakers, yet it's kind of hard to find really quality Turkish resources, so I collected the ones that I use regularly and I can recommend for others. And hopefully if you want to learn Turkish and you're lost, or if you are already learning Turkish and you need more resources, hopefully this list can be helpful for you. My personal story with Turkish starts about 2015 or 16 when the Turkish tree was released for Duolingo. So originally I got my Turkish knowledge from Duolingo, but as we all know, that's really not enough. That's just a really good baseline. So my main textbook these days is the Turkish An Essential Grammar by Routledge. They have excellent resources for every language they make these grammars for, but I really like this Turkish one because it goes into such good depth that I can't really find anywhere else. To be honest, I haven't found another source for English speakers that gives such good explanations and goes into such necessary depth. For example, the issue of when to use the accusative marker is sometimes pretty difficult for Turkish learners, and this book explained it to me perfectly, I think. Now, it's not as hard for me, but I do make mistakes sometimes. So. The pros of this book is that it is really, really in-depth. The cons would be that it's not in a proper curriculum. It's organized by grammatical concepts, so it's going to talk about nouns, then about adjectives, then about verbs, but that's not useful if you're starting from zero. But if you have the fundamentals down using the other sources I'm about to mention, this is a excellent must-have resource for any Turkish learner. I emphasized for English speakers earlier because for speakers of other languages there actually is quite a lot of quality Turkish content. The title is Teach Yourself Turkish in the Bulgarian Language. I really can't recommend this to my audience because I probably don't have a lot of native Bulgarian speakers in my audience, but if you are a native Bulgarian speaker, or maybe you are B1, B2, C1 in Bulgarian, this could be a really good source for you. I really like how it is organized in a curriculum, so the cons of the previous book are not present here. You're going to start with easy things, then you're going to get progressively harder. I really like the vocab this book introduces and its explanation for grammars. But again, this is a pretty niche book for Bulgarian speakers, so probably if you're an English native like my analytics are telling me, you're probably not gonna like this book. But I thought it would be good to mention. Something that is really good for native speakers is fluentinturkish.com. This honestly is a free alternative to a textbook. You can find absolutely amazing grammar explanations and tables in this website, but also a curriculum order with quizzes and vocab. So you can follow the curriculum if you're starting from zero, or if you already know some, you can get some additional explanation, and this website is perfect for that. I really recommend it to all Turkish learners, beginner, intermediate, okay, maybe advanced, it might not be that useful, but most Turkish learners are probably beginner or intermediate, so this is probably good for the audience of this video. Turkish Basics is also a good supplement for some people, especially beginners, I think. The grammar explanations aren't so good outside of some tables, which are fantastic. Really good for getting specific knowledge, for getting specific vocab relating to specific topics. So it's a great supplement if you don't know where to start, but think of it as a supplement, I think, from my language learner perspective. Something else that could be really useful is the FSI language course. This is free, available online. This is what the US government has used to train its diplomats. So with that background, you can tell it's a little dry, it's a little, direct. It's like the goal was, quickly learn and send them to the country. So it's not that interesting with a lot of fun examples. It's really to the point. And Probably a lot of you want that, so maybe this is a good resource for you. It's pretty ugly because it is pretty old, but I mean, it's free and it's a pretty good fundamental. A lot of advanced learners that have worked for governments have used this source and have found a lot of success in Turkey. So this could be something else if you really want something free. Something else I could recommend is UTalk. UTalk is really good for vocab. You can find the vocab for any topic, for example, vegetables, for example, colors, holidays, and it can give you a lot of good exercises and practice to really get those vocab words down. I think this is really good if you have zero knowledge about some vocab cluster. This is really good for you. You can get 30% off any purchase you make on UTalk with the link in my description. UTalk did not pay me to talk about them in this video, but I am an affiliate, so I do benefit from mentioning them in this list. So I'm trying to be totally honest here, totally open. Same thing is true for this next source that I recommend, Glossika. Glossika is very similar to other language apps, where you get a sentence, you repeat it back and use that sentence as an example to learn more. You can infer grammar, you can infer words a lot from these sentences, and it's a good source if you just don't know where to start. You can get a 7-day free trial with the link in my description. Again, they didn't sponsor me, but I do financially benefit from mentioning them in the list today. Just keep that in mind. Then there are sources of input, which you absolutely need if you want to learn any language. Grammar books are not enough. You really need to see the language used in action. So here are some examples of that you can use for your Turkish learning. If you are an avid language learner, you probably know Easy Turkish, or at least Easy Languages that they are a part of. Easy Turkish is really good if you want to see natives use sentences in a really controlled environment. They are street interviews and they are subtitled in Turkish and in English. I get a lot of vocab from these videos, write down the words that they're saying that I don't know. It's really helpful for me, and it's really good if you are a beginner or intermediate level. You can probably find something useful in these videos. A similar channel for beginners and intermediate learners is Turkish Le. This is a YouTube channel for English speakers, so it's primarily in English. You'll get a lot of vocab explanations, grammar explanations. I really recommend it for beginners or intermediate learners. Now we're increasing the temperature a bit, and I would recommend going to trtçocuk.net.tr. This is children's programming in full Turkish from the Turkish national broadcaster. Since it is in Turkish, it might be a little too much for beginners, but once you're at that intermediate level, you can probably understand them very well. And I separate them from the broadcaster, which I'm about to talk about in a minute, specifically because children's programming is a little bit simpler. It's a step down from the perspective of a learner, so you can understand it a little bit easier than that native adult level content. Something else I recommend is the Let's Practice Turkish channel on YouTube. It's actually a Turkish learning channel for Arabic native speakers. So the titles are in Arabic, the subtitles are in Arabic, but if you're a native English speaker like me that doesn't know any Arabic, it's very good as a Turkish resource because they're speaking slowly, doing really simple sentences, but in Turkish, and I can't cheat by looking at the English because there is no English. It's for Arabic speakers. I really recommend that. Like I mentioned earlier, for English speakers, there aren't that many resources for Turkish, so we kind of have to steal resources from other native speakers. Something else I recommend is the YouTube channel DW Türkçe. This is news in full Turkish from the German national broadcaster. They have a Turkish subsidiary, and this YouTube channel is really good if you want to learn Turkish. The videos are not too long. They're about basic topics, really useful if you want to explore a topic in native level Turkish. Something else I recommend is trt.net.tr. This is a free on-demand streaming service. Think of a Netflix clone that comes from the Turkish national broadcaster. You'll find news here, dramas, shows, movies, a lot of content for native speakers of Turkish, and it can be useful if you need native Turkish content. The next 3 sources of input are really similar. There isn't much to distinguish them, but they are all available. The first one is showtv.com.tr. This is the website for one of Turkey's broadcasters. You'll find dramas and shows here. You can also find the same thing on startv.com.tr, dramas and shows in native level Turkish, and you'll find that same thing on atv.com.tr. There isn't that much to say that distinguishes all of them. I just recommend exploring them, finding the shows you want, and sticking to something because they are available, they are free, you gotta use them. Then for Turkish learning tools, kind of the miscellaneous things that you'll be using throughout the entire process, there are a few of those. The dictionary that I love to use for Turkish is Reverso. I really love the quality for Turkish. The quality for all the languages they have is really good, but for Turkish, I particularly like it compared to other dictionaries I found. If you don't know, Reverso is a great website and iOS and Android app that gives you translations based on context from the internet. So you can look at the examples and see if this is the correct word you want based on the context you are using it in. Do you want to say time as in zaman, or do you want to say time as in kez? You can see that from the context. Now, Turkish has so many conjugations it can get a little confusing, especially if you're confused about that vowel harmony. Some ways to see that conjugation completely written out is on Verbix. Verbix has a really nice Turkish conjugator that I really recommend for all levels. Maybe once you're advanced, you're going to need it less, but in the beginner stage, you really need to see those conjugations. This is where you can find them. Something else that could be really useful is the Tobo app. They have Tobo for a lot of languages, but for Turkish, if you want vocab just given to you, you want the algorithm to decide what should I learn right now, this is really good for you. They have pictures, predetermined levels, AI pronunciation, so it's not really done by a human, but you can at least hear it, which is better than nothing. I personally am the kind of person that only likes to take words from context, from the input that I've seen, so I don't use it that much, but I have it on my phone and I've used it a couple times. This could be useful for a lot of people that just want, please just give me the vocab. That's for you. Something else I recommend is italki for tutors. Again, financial disclosure, I am an affiliate of them, so I do benefit by including them in this list, but even if I wasn't italki affiliate, I probably would have mentioned them just because for Turkish, this is the best place to find tutors. You can find tutors of any level, any specific needs you have, you can find all of it there. That's really where italki shines. What you want, you can find. Do you want a German and Turkish speaker? You can find that. Do you want a Turkish speaker that lives in France because you are in France? You can do that. Do you want to find a Turkish speaker that doesn't know a word of English? You can find that as well. Turkish is one of those languages you probably can't find a lot of classes for in your area, at least if you're in the US. So italki is probably going to be a must for any self-learner of Turkish in the US. If you click on the link in my description, you can get $10 back once you put $20 in your student wallet on italki. So I recommend that if you need a Turkish tutor. Something else I recommend is getting a VPN. Surfshark could be that VPN for you. Again, Surfshark is not paying me to mention them in this video today, but it is useful if you are a Turkish learner because a lot of the content could be geo-blocked, especially if you are looking on the Turkish side of the internet. So if you click in the link in my description, you can get 82% off a Surfshark plan plus 2 extra months for free. So if you are self-studying Turkish, you might need this one. So everything I mentioned today will be in the resources page on my website, which I will link in the description at the very top. You can see a complete list of everything I said today. So if I find a new resource, that website is probably going to get amended, but this video will not. So check out that resource page for the links to everything I mentioned today, plus maybe something else if you're watching this in the far future. If you've liked this video today, please give it a like. If you want to see more from me, please subscribe to see more. I'll have the link to all my socials in the description below if you want to see me on my language learning journey. If you want to see articles about language learning and tips to improve your learning, you can check out my website at studywithalex.com. But with that, that will be everything for today's video. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you for another video very soon. All right, hoşça kalın.